ESPN's Katherine, Terrell, and Fletcher Mackel talk the Saints training camp heading into the 2024 NFL season. Live in studio here, Kat Terrell, Fletcher Mackel on WDSU. Ladies and gentlemen, training camp is close. We are close to some actual football. We are close to some actual pads. We are close to some actual visuals of this offense, visuals of Clint Kubiak, visuals of Derek Carr, how this is actually going to work. I am so excited. Let's go ahead and let Kat and Fletcher talk us through this.
All right, Katherine, Terrell with ESPN.
Jesus.
I don't want to go back too far, but this is your 11th or 12th year covering the NFL.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know at this point. Let's just say it's over 10 and keep it at that.
Yeah, Saints, Bengals, and now back to the Saints. I think.
So it feels like the audio is like it's like coming through one ear. So I think that's why it's so messed up. Is it's I forgot the term for that now, but it's like only one of the two audio. What is that called? I'm not gonna be able to think of it. Only one of them's coming through, so that's why it's a little weird, a little wonky. So it's not on your end, it's not on my end, it's on WDSU's end.
I think the biggest storyline as we get ready to watch the team start training camp in Irvine, Alvin Kamara, is that fair to say? Until he shows up, until something is resolved in some way, I feel like that is going to dominate headlines.
Yeah, true. It will. I mean, we did a video on this, or we have a video on this coming up, depending on how the scheduling date works. But Alvin is under contract, so Alvin does have to play unless he decides to take a huge financial hit. But he obviously wants a deal or restructured extension, which probably behooves everybody for him just to get involved, get in there, rock and roll. I don't blame him. Right now, he's playing on the final year of his deal, basically. I know he has 2 years left, but the last year is not a real year. He will not play under that part of the deal. So this is his last year. I'm sure he feels like, hey, I would love some security here. Like, I would love to know kind of where we're at. I just want it to be done so that we can see the offense. Like, I want it to be done so we can see the team. I want to see this team at full strength. We have yet, I mean, since Drew Brees left, think about this. Since Drew Brees left, we have not seen the Saints at full strength at any point, because Brees leaves. So then, we've got Peyton, we got the core guys, but then Winston's there. That's certainly not full strength. Then all of a sudden we have to go with Winston again, but he gets hurt. Oh, and also Peyton's not there. So it's like, all right, now we've got Andy Dalton. Like, that's not really full strength. Then last year, cool, we get Derek Carr, but at one point Alvin Kamara is suspended. At one point, Michael Thomas is on the field, and he gets hurt per usual. Not to mention all those years I just talked about, Michael Thomas was hurt. Last year, Marshall Lattimore gets hurt. Cam Jordan gets hurt. We had the Trevor Penning disaster. Pete Carmichael was on the sidelines. Right now, going into this season, everything seems pretty cool. Everyone seems to be healthy. All the coaches are intact. Pete Carmichael's not there anymore. Everything's chill. Derek Carr is there on his second year. But now we have to deal with this. Now we have to deal with Kamara potentially being disgruntled or whatever's going to happen. He can't really hold out, I don't think. Again, that would be really risky for him, so I don't think that's going to happen. But I just hope it gets done and we can move on, because I do not want this to dominate training camp talk. I would be surprised if it happened all through training camp, personally.
It's interesting. That class of 2017 was so important to the Saints and their resurgence. And now we're going to enter training camp with all these questions about the class of 2017 as they're now all older. And I think Kamara is one of those main questions. Obviously, we all know by now that he skipped the last day of minicamp, which can come with a fine, even though Dennis Allen wouldn't confirm that he was fined for leaving. But once you get to training camp, the fines are significantly higher.
Right.
And the new CBA says that teams cannot erase fines. So is Kamara.
Exactly. So like I was saying, he could technically hold out, but he's going to take some hefty fines. So does he do that? I doubt it.
Willing to die on this hill, I guess. Is he willing to be fined a lot of money every day before they settle this contract? And we don't know that answer, and I don't think we're going to know that answer until training camp opens and Kamara's there out at practice.
So before I get to the class of 17, because you're right, Ramczyk was part of that class. Marshawn Lattimore was part of that class. I mean, a lot of questions about these guys that I want to get to with you. How do you think this is resolved? In your crystal ball, what you've written for ESPN, do they compromise on some new deal? Is Alvin unhappy playing on a one-year deal? Do the Saints cave and give him some mega money coming off the worst year of his career? Where does this finish?
The mega money is not going to happen. That's the one that I don't think is possible. I don't think he gets this mega deal. That just doesn't make any sense. Like, why would he get this mega deal coming off of multiple bad years, aging? It just doesn't happen. I could see a compromise. I could see, somewhere in the middle, but I do not think the Saints are going to cave and give him a mega deal when the Saints do not have to do anything.
I think it's going to get resolved one way or another, and maybe that's kind of a cop-out answer. It has to be resolved. They will not go through all of training camp with this hovering over his head. Now, I think that when you look at some of the other contracts they've done this year, what they've done is they've added years for less money. Now, I don't know if Kamara would kind of find that acceptable. Obviously, Kamara, just me speculating, wants more guarantees because he's a running back, and running backs have short lifespans.
Makes sense, right? The most volatile position, so of course you want the money guaranteed, not just because of injury, but because of the turnover at the position, so that's why he wants more guarantees. Makes total sense.
NFL. And if you look at also how they redid every single contract this year but Kamara's, I think that kind of says what the Saints think of him long term. So I think they're going to come to some solution, but that solution I think is not going to be mega dollars. I think maybe they add more years and a little more money, but
yeah, I don't think it's kind of it's complicated because, like what Kamara wants, I don't think the Saints want to give him. I don't think the Saints want to commit long term, and I don't think they should commit long term right now. Why would they? Again, you have an aging running back who has not performed. Why would you commit long term to that at a position that has historically been the most easy to turn over, almost year by year?
Ultimately, both sides have to be happy about it.
Yeah, you're right. And the other players you're talking about, Demario Davis, Tyrann Mathieu, more years, less money, kind of a team-friendly deal. I want to talk about Ryan Ramczyk, obviously a pillar of the team's second half of Drew Brees' success, if you will. He got here in 2017, such an integral part of the offense for those final years of Brees when they were really good. I don't know if he's ever going to play football again. What are your...
I don't think he's going to. I've said this before. We have been on this way early. I mean, we talked about this. Like, we put our kind of our line in the sand months ago, where we said, look, he's not going to play. You don't drop 75, 80 pounds as a lineman. You don't do that if you think you're going to play. He's dropping that. It happens all the time. Jeff Saturday dropped like 150 pounds when he retired. Offensive linemen do that. Joe Thomas dropped like 200 pounds. Offensive linemen do that when they're done playing, helps their quality of life. I think Ramczyk is done. I think he's done. He cannot retire right now because of his salary cap, what the hit would do to the Saints. He has to wait this year, go to next year. He might be like a post-June 1st type situation next year where he just retires the first day that he's eligible. But that's what's going to happen. And so we never factored him into this year. We're not factoring him into the future. I hope he plays. I hope I'm wrong. But as right now, all the signs point to Ryan Ramczyk will never play again. Unfortunately, just a horrible situation with his knee. Again, hopefully something happens. We get an advancement in medicine or an advancement in physical therapy or whatever, and he is able to play. But to no surprise, he is certainly not playing this year.
Your thoughts on Ryan Ramczyk, which is unfortunate because he's given his body to the game.
Yeah.
That would be so unfortunate. But, going back a little bit, it was very interesting that final week in the locker room. Everyone knows Ramczyk is not the biggest talker. Very nice guy, but he doesn't say a lot. And that day when we had the open locker room period, we went up to him and talked to him, and he was very honest that he had some serious knee issues that he was going to have to address. He was so honest. Honestly, it took me aback because I didn't realize the severity of the problem. So when you think about that and the fact that something seems to have gone wrong in the interim period between then and now, I don't know if he's going to play football again. And I think the fact that we haven't seen him, heard him, that he's been excused from camp, all of that points towards, unfortunately, bad signs that he's probably at least not going to be able to play this year and maybe never again if they don't have some, big solution.
Yeah, I agree with you. Unless there's some type of miracle, healing or surgery or
for his
procedure.
sake, I hope there is.
So do I, because he's such a great
I'm rooting
guy.
for him. I'm rooting for him for sure.
Again, has been an integral part of the offense. I want to stay on the offensive line. James Hurst is now an analyst with us here at WDSU since he just retired from the Saints. He was very self-aware when we spoke to him about he feels like the offensive line doomed the offense early last year. He feels like they got better, but he...
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. The offensive line was asked to do something they could not do, and because they couldn't do it, that just the rest of the offense fell apart. I mean, how many times did we see Derek Carr in some long drop back? The offensive line is being asked to hold this big pocket for a long time. They can't do that. Derek Carr is taking a sack before the receivers are even halfway through their routes. Happen all the time. How many times did we see Rashid Shaheed 30 yards down the field burning the safety or burning the cornerback, but Derek Carr cannot get the protection to get him the ball downfield, so it's underthrown, or Shaheed has to come back, or Carr takes the sack, or Carr has to check down. It was a lot of different problems all rolled up into one problem. But yeah, the offensive line did not help. And also, we ran the ball for 3.8 yards a carry. We did not have a running back over 80 yards any game last year. So that is not exactly a algorithm for success. It really is kind of a miracle. We won 9 games with all the problems we had last year.
He's a big believer in the guys up front. 3 new starters, obviously, with Fuaga, probably Trevor Penning, probably Nick Saldiveri. And he says this team will go as far as that young offensive line can carry them.
No, agree there. I mean, it will go as far as that offensive line, specifically Talise Fuaga and Trevor Penning. If Trevor Penning can get a resurgence at right tackle, and Trevor Penning can be a cornerstone stud left tackle, just that is a huge bonus from last year. If we just have that alone, if you just told me those two things are going to happen, the offensive line already is leaps and bounds better than last year. And if Fuaga is good on the left and Penning is average on the right, then I think that means the rest of the offensive line is good enough to where the offensive line is good enough to be in that like 20-ish, ranked offensive line, that average to below average, which is all we need from them for this offense to be successful. We just can't have them be a disaster. We just can't have them be the worst offensive line in football. As long as that's the case, as long as they aren't the worst offensive line in football, we're good to go.
I think he's right. Hurst has always been kind of a guy that tells it like it is, and I can't argue with what he said this time. I think the biggest question mark is Trevor Penning. Can Penning make that leap, not only from second year to third year after he got benched early in the season, but can he? Agreed.
Like let's just say it like this. Let's pretend Trevor Penning does the same thing he did last year. Let's say he starts early or starts bad early. He looks lost, and they got to take him off the field. Who the hell's playing right tackle? We're already shallow. Like, we're already a shallow unit. So losing your right tackle or having to move Talise Fuaga back to right tackle and find a left tackle, like, we need Trevor Penning to be able to play. We need him to be able to be on the field. Last year, he was not able to be on the field. He wasn't bad. He wasn't playable. So he has to go from not playable to average to good. Like, he's got a long road ahead. I hope he is there. I hope the move, I hope the new offense, I hope the new scheme, I hope the fresh start. I hope that gets him where he has to go. But, we're kind of seeing everything through rose-colored glasses right now, but there is a chance where the same thing happens. And we just don't have the depth to lose a right tackle or the depth to lose a left tackle on this line. That would be very, very bad. So, but as we saw last year, like, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. So hopefully he can play.
He switched sides. I will say this about Penning. He's always had a very optimistic and positive attitude throughout all of these things that have happened in the last year, and he was the same way, moving sides. He said he feels like it's a fresh start for him. So I think that just my speculation is that him and Fuaga will go into training camp and the regular season as the presumed starters, and then maybe that guard spot is up for grabs. But the Saints have kind of been mentioning Saldiveri multiple times over the past 4.
From right now, everything I'm hearing is Fuaga on the left, Penning on the right, and Saldiveri at left guard. That seems to be the plan for the start of the season. That seems to be it.
4 or 5, 6 months since the season ended, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's kind of their top guy right now in that spot.
Yeah, I agree. Katherine Terrell, she'll be in Irvine with Sharif starting this week. So Can't wait to follow all the black and gold reports. Katherine, thank you.
We're close. We are close, ladies and gentlemen. Very exciting. I'm pumped up. Once training camp starts, we hit the ground running. So get excited. Let me know in the comments below what you're looking for. What answers are you looking for with training camp beginning? What do you want to see? What do you want to hear? Give me the narratives that you'll be tracking. Of course, we'll be covering it every day right here. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.